F1 25 is here. It's official, it's confirmed. Now, before we get too excited, I'm going to be skeptical, I'm going to be realistic. We need to keep a level head here. We've had a couple of bad games now where we need something big. This sounds pretty good on paper, looks pretty decent in the trailer, but I don't want to get carried away. So I'm going to give you guys my true thoughts and opinions. Also, to be fair, I have to say there's more in the trailer than I thought, and it's all pretty good. So let's delve into it. We're going to break down the trailer. First off though, before we do that, we're going to quickly run through the press release and show you guys the full rundown of what we know so far. Now, the first big bit of news is F1 25 is coming to PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S and PC on May 30th, which basically confirms we are not getting the game on the old generation of consoles, which is the step I've been begging for, waiting for years. It basically means the F1 game can now level up and take a step forward, really take advantage of the true power capacity of the PS5, the Xbox Series X and S, and really try and level things up. F1 has been held back by the old gen consoles for a long time. It basically stopped it from developing its ego engine because the old gen consoles couldn't handle the new capacity of the new stuff, which makes perfect sense. So this gives us the possibility of a real big step. Now, I'll go into more detail after with the trailer to kind of explain where I think this change is going to come into effect based off what I'm seeing. But the big thing here, May 30th release. So similar to last year, exact same kind of pattern, but only on the kind of newer gen consoles and PC. It then goes on to mention the first of the game features, and it says the fan favorite Breaking Point with Connor Sport is returning, where they're now battling for championship. So essentially this is now part 3 or step 3 of the multiple game story mode arc, and this is the last one where the titles are on the line and it's gonna get dramatic. Now with that, it also mentions we have multiple new difficulty settings catering for returning veterans and rookies making their F1 debuts. Now I want to focus on the returning vets like myself. Hopefully we have some actual hard difficulty settings to make this really competitive, because if so, it would actually make the game a little bit more interesting for us, which is something I'm hoping is the case. And then we get a bit of waffle about the film, basically, mentioning that it's releasing, and because of that, if you pre-order the Iconic Edition, you can experience post-launch gameplay chapters. Not too sure exactly what that is, if that applies to Breaking Point or F1 World or career mode, my team, I don't know. Inspired by the film featuring the Apex GP team, which is in the trailer, which you'll see in a bit. As always, the Iconic or Special Edition, basically players will receive additional content, including the 2025 season liveries for use in F1 24 and 3 days early access. So we'll be getting, hopefully, those new 25 liveries on F1 24 very soon. And now we bring things over to our realm, my realm, and what we do, and that's my team. So popular game mode, my team receives its first significant overhaul with players calling the shots, which, by the way, you kind of called the shots anyway, so I'm guessing they've leveled up the amount of decisions you control and things you can put input into compared to before as the owner of the F1 team. So basically take on new responsibilities before getting behind the wheel as either the team's drivers. So that's interesting, actually. That is the key wording here. Take on new responsibilities before getting behind the wheel as either of the team's drivers. Now, does that mean you don't actually drive as yourself, and basically you're no longer the driver owner who is driving his own car? You're now just basically a team principal or a team president or leader, whatever they want to call it, and you have to actually hire 2 drivers, and you can pick to drive as, let's say, either Hulkenberg or Bortoleto in the case of Sauber, but for example. So that could be interesting, a slight different approach on how my team could work. On track, F1 25 continues to innovate through the power of its ego engine. So first hint here at the engine overhaul, which I mentioned before, and this is why they've done it. Enabling increased circuit authenticity made possible through LiDAR technology. Several tracks and their surroundings have transformed with a more realistic look and feel. So basically, they needed the extra capacity, the horsepower, the storage space of the new consoles compared to the old ones to improve the ego engine and give us better tracks, because ultimately the circuit environment is the heaviest kind of foliage in the F1 game per se, and we can't get the best possible tracks without the horsepower to run alongside that. So hopefully we've had a lot of tracks that have had improvements, because F1 loves to kind of sell this revamped tracks mantra over the last few years, and all they've really done is redo 2 tracks out of the 24 for the entire season. So hopefully they've done more than 2 tracks, and they've given us a significant revamp to tracks like Hungary, Canada, Monaco, what else off the top of my head, Bahrain, Mexico, and many more. Hopefully we're getting those updates. In a quick interview, Lee Mather, Senior Creative Director at Codemasters, said this year there are new opportunities for players to connect, collaborate, and compete than ever before. We look forward to sharing more in the coming weeks. So still got to wait a bit longer to get some real tangible kind of info. Now, there is a bit of waffle here about, of course, Lewis joining Ferrari, pairing up with them, and he's now part of the kind of face of the brand of EA for this year's game, but there's nothing really too important. Again, just to kind of go over the Iconic Edition, players who pre-order the digital exclusive F1 25 Iconic Edition, that's a mouthful, will receive a multitude of perks linked to cover star Lewis Hamilton and the film F1. I mean, you guys can, see all the details and, the benefits of the standard or the Iconic Edition, but I'm here for just, seeing what the content of the game is all about. Right, that's it. Press release done. Now we're going to get into the trailer and break down the things that I noticed and things that I think are worth noting. Now then, we're on YouTube. This is the official trailer. We have it in 4K, so maximum quality. At the bottom of the screen, very important, mix of live action cinematics and game engine footage, not actual gameplay. So bear that in mind. This has basically been altered, in terms of post video editing to make it look better or worse, or however they want to make it, suited for how they want to make it look. Now, that being said, I have screenshots. We have exclusive screenshots, which we'll get into after the trailer to kind of compare how this looks versus the real thing, which I think is the case for the screenshots. Anyway, let's get into it. We'll pause 0.25, 0.5 at certain times and break down everything I'm seeing. Now then, we're going to begin this at 0.5 speed, so I can pause at certain points. Now, we're going to get a lot of Lewis Ferrari footage at first, which is to be expected, but this is what they mean about not actual gameplay. This is the actual game, okay, this is actually it, but if you look at this particular image, around the corners and the sides, there's kind of like a blur effect going on, which basically means post-editing, which they've done for the trailer. But this is actually the game, you get an idea of what the game's going to look like, and you can see in these images, actually there's a fair bit of, I'd say improvement going on. Overhaul, lighting in certain points does look a lot better. Again, this cinematic, for example, is exactly the same as past F1 games. In this particular scenario, you can tell the game is a work in progress, because if this is Lewis Hamilton, he has a white skin complexion and no tattoos. So, work in progress, right? That's the gist here, not actual gameplay. So that's where it's a bit unfinished. You have to bear that in mind. From this particular shot, I won't lie, Brazil looks exactly the same. So I really hope they've overhauled Brazil, because that's one of those tracks that needs a bit of an update. So again, Australia, a bit like before, the kind of corners are a bit blurred up, but this is still technically Australia. And, to be fair, they overhauled this recently, so I don't think there'll be much change in this particular circuit, besides, bringing it in line with the 2025 sponsors. But we do get a preview here of multiple tracks, and we can maybe depict a few things here and get an idea. So we've got Australia, of course, with the Louis Vuitton last corner, a lot of blur effects around the edges, okay, but you get the idea. Imola, hard to tell here, possibly a bit more of a revamp. Trees look a bit more revamped, and kind of dense, a bit more of a forest feel, but I could be getting ahead of myself. Bahrain also could do with a bit of a rework. This is in the daytime setting. Then we have another shot of Imola here, which, to be fair, does look the same as past games. Again, I'm doing this in real time. Nice aerial shot of Melbourne here. Again, it'd be cool if we got these actual things in game as cinematics to kind of, enjoy for ourselves. But here we go then. So F1 25, I don't think we're going to be seeing any of the actual 2025 cars in this trailer. I think it's going to be all basically FOM multiplayer chassis cars with, just the 25 liveries applied. So here we go. So lights out in Australia. The Williams looks quite different in terms of, you can really tell the lighting has changed with the engine update for this game, it feels like. For me at least, I can definitely see the colour of blue compared to the last game, and last year's Williams has vastly changed. But yeah, here we go, into a bit of hopefully on-track action. Now this is interesting. I don't want to believe that this is the gameplay. I think this is post and quite a bit of, you know, After Effects added on to make it look more real. I don't think this is what the game is going to look like, because this looks actually pretty sick and pretty realistic. Again, it's not actual gameplay, so we'll never know, but I mean, it's pretty freaking awesome, you know. There are certain points when you really get that feeling with the lighting that a real step's been taken forward in this game. And, you know, the tracks look pretty nice as well at certain points. This looks like Mexico to me, possibly. I mean, that looks very different. Very, very different. You know, at times I thought I was watching like an F1 Manager trailer because of the new lighting and the way the cars looked. I mean, I do feel that a step has been made. Now, Connor Sport is quite interesting because we've had it in the past where old trailers for old games, we've had basically not actual gameplay because they put a lot of post-edit effects and basically make it look super realistic, but that's not what we get in the actual game. So I know a lot of this stuff isn't going to look how it looks, you know, for us when we play, because it's trailer made or video made. But I will say, I love the level of detail here. Casper Ackerman now on the pit wall celebrating as we saw a Connor Sport car overtake. I think that was Max Verstappen. A little brief look at the HUD here, but we'll get into that in just a second. We'll get another look in a minute, but you can see here a bit of Ferrari Lewis action at Miami. Again, a track that could do a little bit of work. Here's the HUD, okay? First look, we're going to get, in principle, the same in the corners HUD as the past F1 24 game. We're not going to get those kind of 2025, you know, updates to the HUD that we've had in real life, but the gameplay HUD is here. Now, is this the final version? Is this definitive? Who knows? But I don't think a lot of people are going to like this, and I like that it's quite small and compact, but I'm not too sure about the design myself. So sound off in the comments, but I don't know if that's going to be popular. Again, we don't know exactly how it works either, so that remains to be seen. For this particular shot, the game looks very different. The red on the Ferrari looks very kind of washed out. The wheels don't look black, they look a bit kind of greyish. And just the whole feel, I mean, the track also is unfinished, unsponsored on the sides of the wall, so there is, again, a kind of work in progress element here with the game. And this, at first glance, looks a little bit different to F1 24. Again, the engine work, the lighting, it does seem like there's been a bit of an overhaul this year. Again, this feels quite different, but I don't want to get carried away, you know, and kind of fall into the trap. But I know the visuals are different because I can see it in the screenshots, which we'll see in a bit. Again, we get some more breaking point gameplay, bit of drama, contact, which could be one of the key points in the storyline, so we'll be looking out for that one. Here's the logo, breaking point 3, looking pretty sick. Again, likely the last time we see it. Love the cutscenes. To be fair, I actually quite enjoyed the last time we did it. Breaking point 2 on F1 2023. I actually, you know, had a fair bit of fun. But this is where we get into an interesting bit of the trailer. In and out on the transition, and Hamilton leaves the pits the other way in reverse, which now we're going to get a whole sequence of gameplay here. Zandvoort into the banking. The S is at Silverstone. Pit straight at Silverstone. Austria. All of this, which, by the way, before we continue, this looks a lot different. This looks visually significantly improved. I'm convinced this is new engine graphic gameplay because it just looks right. It doesn't look as altered as the Connor Sport breaking point stuff. This looks a bit more kind of actual gameplay. But all of this is reverse circuit. So my prediction on my guess here is, much like how back in the day we had short circuits in F1, we now have reverse circuits for every single one. So basically you can do all 24 circuits in the other direction and add that as another element of gameplay. So fair dues, I'm not against that. That's, you know, good to have a bit more gameplay options available. Again, I'd like to have elimination mode available as well. This is interesting. I don't know how much of a lighting effect this is, but this looks significantly more realistic and, you know, better colored than F1 24. Again, could be just a really cool filter or effect, but it's the same animation. But you can see little details here, like the champagne droplets on the camera, which could be part of a new podium effect, you know, podium cinematic potentially. Here's the little extra. So again, because of the F1 movie, if you pre-order the Iconic Edition, you'll get access to Apex GP. So a cool little bonus feature, and also, interestingly, it isn't actually the multiplayer car, the FOM car, it's the actual Apex GP car they ran for the film. So I thought this would just be, just a livery, but actually it's this car they use in the film. So that's a cool little bonus, having the actual chassis. Again, for content purposes, could be quite fun for modding, having a different car in the game. You're going to get 3 days early access with the Iconic Edition. You'll also get, of course, the Hamilton pack as well, which is basically F1 World stuff. Up to you how much you want to read into that. And then we have F175 Celebration pack, which looks like, to be fair, like the Audi livery from a couple of years back, just slightly revised, not really much to write home about. So that was it, guys. That was a trailer. Now then, screenshots. Now, with these screenshots, there is no watermark or disclaimer saying whether it's actual gameplay or not. So I'm going to assume this is actual, gameplay screenshots and no strings attached, basically. So the first thing to note is the Connor Sport car. Now, of course, the Connor Sport machine uses the actual FOM multiplayer car livery for the My Team series, or for multiplayer purposes for equal cars. So this chassis, this vehicle, has had a significant update to some of its visuals and how it looks. We'll show that off in a bit, but for this one I can really show specifically a few examples of how the new engine has affected the game and how the visuals have changed. The tyres look a much more realistic colour now. They're not just black, they're kind of like a darkish grey with a bit more texture on them. The carbon fibre is a lot more noticeable, and the lighting generally, the reflections off the car, the shadows, it all looks much better. The big change for the multiplayer car this year, I think the nose has been moved up from the bottom element of the wing to basically having a bit of a space. Here we have a little screenshot of Calimera again. These ones I'm not going to read into too much because they're a storyline screenshot from a film which has been, pre-produced, prepared, rendered. So this is basically filtered and not really actual gameplay. Now here we have an interesting shot, and Spa looks pretty nice. The lighting here is significantly better, and I think the new engine here is really showing, because where there's a good kind of measuring stick for these things, you can really tell, like, in the background, the DHL and the way it pops really far away, the level of detail with the trees and the water spray. I can tell here there's been a bit of an uplift in terms of lighting and just track looks, presentation for this game. We get a bit of a preview of how the kind of new Ego engine has helped them revamp the tracks. So you can see Melbourne here is basically following that real life data, and you can see the kind of, the what they're working on to the final renders. Interesting, a bit more for like a few more buildings in the environment, and hopefully they've updated Australia to add those walls like real life, which add a bit more risk. Now this screenshot is my best one, and the one that I enjoy the most. We get a look at the My Team environment and the menu and the facility. Now this is obviously one of the new locations, or maybe a new hub for the My Team, possibly the menu, the car, or the show car hanging, which also is good because if I quickly zoom in here, we can actually see the new chassis and the updates in its entirety. So from what I can tell from the naked eye, and just a quick look without looking at the last car, the wing has been completely reprofiled. The nose has been brought up by one element, so it's a bit shorter. The wing mirrors are brand new. They're a bit more complex, like the real cars now, not so simple, which they had since F1 2022. Also, the side pod and the engine cover have been reprofiled a little bit, and I feel like the wing has had that kind of corner tips added on the edges. So the car looks a lot more now kind of fitting with the rest of the cars on the grid. So yeah, big fan. Also, livery is pretty sweet as well. So yeah, we'll take this, and that's quite an encouraging screenshot, to be fair, and one of my favorites. Now here we get a little glimpse of the Connor Sport car. Again, I don't know how much I want to read into the Connor Sport stuff, but I mean, look at the detail here on the halo, texture pattern, whatever that is. Lighting, either way, looks pretty sweet. Not sure what filters this might have had, but you get a look at the wheel dash. The steering wheel was still the same. But that was all the screenshots and all the footage and press release I have for you guys, all the info. So give me your thoughts in the comments down below. What do you think? Quite a bit more info than past game reveals, which is good, so we get something to work with here, but I guess we're gonna have to find out. The beta, I believe, starts tomorrow. I'm not sure if I should say that or not, but I think it starts tomorrow. So again, people are gonna start playing the game and getting a feel, and let's be honest, the handling was a big issue with F1 24, so hopefully the adjustments have been made, but I'm gonna just keep my expectations very low and just say, okay, I'm going to give this whole thing a cautious thumbs up for now, but I'm not going to say pre-order the game, just yet. I have, my own code with EA, which I could give you guys and, promote the game, but let's just wait for a bit and see what we get. So, I'm not going to do none of that right now. So, yeah, guys, all I would ask is that you like the video and subscribe to my channel for more information regarding F1 25, my thoughts and opinions. And yeah, comment down below, and I'll see you guys in my next one. As always, a massive shout out to the members of my channel for supporting all the content. And also, guys, check out the 2 videos on screen, which you might enjoy more than F1 gaming content if you feel like the game is dead. So, yeah, cheers for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next one very soon. Ciao.